Welcome. I'm Dr. Terry Hildebrandt, the Director of Evidence-Based Coaching at the Fielding Graduate University. Today is March 18th, 2020, and we're really excited to have Jeff Moore here with us. We are doing an Evidence-Based Coaching Professional Series webinar. It's part of our ongoing coaching community of practice. And Jeff is going to be talking about Book Yourself Solid. Get clients even if you hate marketing and selling. So that's quite a tagline, Jeff, and we're thrilled to have you here. I'm very excited about Book Yourself Solid because I'm actually a certified coach as well and went through Michael Port's system back in 2005. So I've been using it myself for 15 years, and I know you're a certified coach with Michael Port and this particular system. So I'm going to turn it over to you and ask you to introduce yourself briefly, and then go ahead and begin your webinar when you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. Glad to be here. As Terry has said, I am trained in Book Yourself Solid, among other disciplines. My normal work is helping people scale their businesses to a very large scale in the hundreds of millions of dollars often. And Book Yourself Solid in sales and marketing in general is often part of that. And I think Terry has seen me present this material before as well. So I'm going to share a screen to go through some of the parts of this. Give me a second to get that up and running. So I want desktop 2, I think is what I want to share. Share. And then I want to do this. Okay, Terry, can you confirm you're seeing just a Book Yourself Solid logo essentially? Okay.
Yeah, it looks great. We're all up and running.
Wonderful. Okay, so if you've read the book or you're familiar with the book, you might be surprised to hear that the author declares it to be a love story. And in particular, a love story between you and your clients, and a love story between you and the sales and marketing process, even if you don't know it yet. There's a couple of philosophical underpinnings of this system that are pretty important to understand. The first one is, there are those you're meant to serve, and there's other people that aren't so much. So essentially your job in marketing is to find those people and have those people find you who you're meant to serve. And that's fundamentally what we're doing here. The second principle is a little surprising to some people. Marketing does not get you clients. Okay, well, if marketing doesn't get you clients, what does it do? What it does is it gives you an opportunity to earn trust. And then as you work with people and earn trust over time, you can then make offers proportionate to the amount of trust you've earned, and then people accept those offers. So that's our kind of underlying philosophy that's driving all this. Terry, I'll ask you, I won't see any questions that come up, but if questions come up and people are getting stuck on something, can you just let me know and I can address things if that's necessary as we go along?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have time at the end as well for questions.
I'm fine with questions at the end, but if people are getting stuck in the middle, I don't want them to be wondering for a long time.
Okay, great. Perfect. Thank you.
There's 4 pillars or parts of this system. Your foundation, which we're going to start with and we're going to spend a fair amount of time on. Building trust and credibility, as I've just discussed. Once you've gotten a chance to earn trust, building that trust is the next step. And then the next and the operative part of this is pricing and selling. And we'll talk about probably one of the premier features of this system, super simple selling, and explain how to do that. And the biggest key of all for super simple selling is to have the sales conversation at the right time. So the conversation itself is simple. It's the timing that really makes it. And then finally, and we probably won't get into this, but you can review this in the material I'll give out. Once you've got all this mastered, you then can start your promotion strategies, which is getting noticed in the first place and engaging with people. But there's no point in doing that stuff unless you've got the fundamentals covered, which is what we're going to concentrate on today. So in the foundation, we're going to start out with defining an ideal client. Now, what do we mean by an ideal client? Well, some people might think it's a client that's going to pay me, or a client that have the money to pay me. And while that's a requirement, that's not the kind of way we mean ideal client. What we mean is a client who will energize you, a client you will enjoy working with, a client who will bring out your best and you'll bring out their best. And our fundamental starting point for Book Yourself Solid is to figure out who those people are and why you love them. So, and by the way, every slide that I've provided is available in worksheet form, and I put it up on the Basecamp. So while we're not going to actually do these exercises, I want to familiarize you with them so that you can do them on your own. And I would encourage you to kind of write down your basic ideas of who it is your ideal client would be and why. So just take some notes as we go along. And if you get stuck on anything, again, raise the question and we'll certainly go into it either when you get stuck or at the end. Yes? Good. Then one of the outcomes of working with ideal clients is you do your best work with working with them. They bring out the best in you. So that's what we're going to talk about here. And this picture that I've put up is representative of something called the red velvet rope. And we normally think of this in terms of a very hot nightclub, that there's somebody standing outside the door and it's letting some people in and not letting other people in. Well, that's the way we invite you to think about your coaching practice is you want to let in your ideal clients and not let in the ones that aren't ideal. So who wouldn't be ideal? Somebody who you don't like working with, somebody who saps your energy, somebody who will listen to you or won't listen to you, or will listen but won't take any actions, or whatever it is that interfere with your ability to be your best. If you accept those clients, the first thing you have is there's a part of you that doesn't want any more clients. So you're going to internally resist building your business if you've populated it with clients you don't like working with. So that's one reason. The other reason is, as you set up a barrier to working with you, it makes you more attractive to your target audience. That they know that you're not for everyone, you're for them, and vice versa. And that makes you more appealing as well. So what we invite you to do next in building your foundation is to think about when you have these star clients, these ones that are the best for you, how does it turn you on? How does it activate you? And then what results do you produce for your clients, or do your clients achieve when you're working with them? So that's our next step. Now, and again, I encourage you to take some notes on this and start to answer these questions, even provisional 1 or 2 answers per question, because you're building up your foundation by doing these things, by thinking these things through. And even though we're going to go through it fairly rapidly, you can always come back and take more time and go deeper and get more answers to all these questions. Then we're looking at urgent needs and compelling desires. What do your clients need to do? Why would they come to you? What need are you fulfilling? And we got to be very careful with language here. People want all sorts of things, and they need other things, and telling the difference between what they need and what they want is very important for your sales, marketing, and for your successful delivering of your services. We have a phrase, not really from Book Yourself Solid, but people will want you to death. And the wants are interesting, but the needs are the reason that they pay you and they keep paying you. So identifying what those needs are, what are those problems that must be solved? And similarly, their desires. What is driving what? In other words, a need is certainly repelling them, or you're filling a hole for them. A desire is you're helping them achieve something that they get across the bridge, get across the chasm to the point where they want. So identify the specifics of the needs and the desires that you're going to help. And then when you do that, what is the result that your clients achieve? Okay. Now coming back, if I want to use an example, my CEO coaching clients come to me because they have become the bottleneck in their business. They've maxed out their business and they're doing so much that they can't make their business any bigger because they're out of time and energy, and because they've become the bottleneck. So what I'm doing for them is I'm letting them get a bigger, more successful business and more time back because they stopped being the bottleneck, right? And then the result is the business that they thought they were having, the business of their dreams instead of the business of their reality. So again, I'm inviting you to think in the terms of what your result is that you're providing your clients by fulfilling particular needs they have or fulfilling particular desires they have. Good. Now, once you produce the results, there are 4 kinds of benefits that come from that. We call it FEPS, F-E-P-S. That's an acronym or abbreviation for financial, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So I'd invite everyone to just take a moment and think, when you're producing the big result or your client is achieving the big result on their own, what are the specific financial benefits that they receive when they get that result? The specific emotional benefits. Now, emotional benefits might be, I can sleep better, or I can relax more, I can take time off from work, I can recharge better, I can spend more time with my family, etc. Then physical benefits, I'm healthier, I sleep better, I take better care of myself, I take better care of my family. These are the physical benefits. And then spiritual benefits are talking about, I'm in greater alignment with the world, I'm fulfilling my purpose, I am helping more people. That's the kind of thing that's a spiritual benefit from achieving the big result. All right. So I want to have a check-in. Are people following this? You have questions? Are you keeping up?
Jeff, there was one question. What is the difference between a need and a want? And a few other people have been asking where the worksheets are, and I just posted the Basecamp link into the chat room. So you can click on that and go straight to these if you want to download them for yourself.
Okay, so the question was, what's the difference between a need and a want? Okay, yes. Well, can you put the microphone on whoever asked that, and just we'll have a little discussion about it?
So if you would like to unmute yourself, Gio or Joe, that would be great.
So give me an example of something that might be a need of one of your clients or prospective clients.
He might have, oh, there he is. Let me see if I can unmute him.
Okay, unmute me, okay.
Yeah, can you go ahead and,
yeah.
We hear you now.
Because I love this example. It's going to clarify for everyone, so let's.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it will. Yeah. When I'm working with clients and they're trying to go through change, I talk about the idea that they have to have both a need and a want. The need generally is something which is rationally driving them toward saying, like, I need to quit smoking, or I need to earn an extra $2,000 a week, or whatever it is. They rationally think it's a need. And then the want is actually the emotional driver that says, this is what sounds good, this is what I need, but this is what I really want. Yeah, and that unless they have both of those kind of aligned, or they won't be willing to take the steps to change. Yeah.
So this is a good. So what you're calling want, in my language, I would call their compelling desire, or even their outcome they're looking for. The emotional attachment. So when I'm saying want, I don't mean it's the thing that you have emotion about. I mean, it's I want to quit smoking, or I need to quit smoking, and I want to do it in a certain way, or avoid doing it in a certain way, or I want it to take place instantly, or it's kind of something that's along for the ride, but isn't what this is about. Whereas what you're calling a want, I'm calling your compelling desire, or even your big result.
Gotcha.
I do concur that you need an emotional attachment to the results, and that's part of it. It's just a little bit of a language difference.
Understand. Yep. Okay, that's helpful. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, while we're here, any other questions? Okay.
Nope, I think we're good.
Wonderful. So that kind of interchange helps clarify for everyone, so I'm glad we did that. Okay, so then we have the financial, emotional, physical, and spiritual benefits. Now, the reason I'm asking for this is because we're arming you eventually to be very capable, practiced, calm, steady, and comfortable with a sales conversation where you have all this depth of knowledge about what you're going to say and how you're going to respond to things. And that's why we're asking you to spend so much kind of homeworky time thinking about these things, writing about them, and so on. Once you've done that, you can come up with your who and do what statement, which is another way of saying, let me simply and clearly communicate to people. And this is important for two reasons. Number one, you want to create instant clarity for the person you're speaking with. But number two, you want that clarity to be so good that they can tell other people about you when they run into people that you should know. So the more complicated this is, the less likely it'll be understood, and the way less likelihood it'll be repeated in a way that's helpful for you and for your contacts, friends that could be helped by you. So therefore, you want to say a very simple statement. I help business owners, or I help entrepreneurs, or I help entrepreneurs that feel stuck, or any version of that. And what I help them do is create a business that they're not the limiting factor for. So getting out of the way of the continued growth of the business, which results in both a bigger business and more time and more life in the entrepreneur. Okay? Now, why? Why do you do what you do? This is another thing that people will, back in the theme of there are those you're meant to serve and those you're not meant to serve. This helps you and they understand that you're meant for each other if your purpose is clear, right? So in my case, I look at people and I look at businesses and I see their true potential, and it really bothers me that they're not there yet and they're not necessarily on the road to get there. So I'm motivated by seeing the potential that exists and then having that potential become real in the real world. And then my vision for what I hope to achieve. Well, in my case, I hope that people use business as a vehicle to make a better world. It's a powerful force multiplier to get more done. And it's probably our most effective tool to come together as humans cooperatively together and then do something greater than we could have done separately. It's a nice organizing structure that lets us accomplish more and makes a bigger difference that we've been here and we've affected others and we've helped them. Now, a tagline it's not strictly necessary, but what you're doing is you're helping control how you're talked about and how people move on and speak of you. So if you don't tell them how to talk about you, they'll decide on their own. So this is your chance to control that conversation and educate people about how you want to be talked about. And in my case, I've shortened it over the years to simply realize greatness. And to me, I like wordplay and so on. And I picked that for two reasons, because it means two different things. And I meant them both, right? It means manifest or make real the greatness that's within you, and also realize or become aware of your own greatness. But again, it doesn't have to be wordplay. It has to be something you want to be identified with, and you're educating people how to speak of you. Okay, now I'm going to move on to something called the sales cycle. And in order to talk about the sales cycle, if you recall from earlier in the conversation, marketing does not get you sales. Does anybody remember what it does instead? Anybody can shout it out, or if you want to type it in, Terry will read it back. What does marketing do rather than get you sales?
Trust.
Yes, it gives you an opportunity to earn trust. And one way that you can earn trust is create offers at different, we call them barriers. So a no barrier offer would be an offer that is free and maybe not even requiring an email or anything, but just a way to engage with you. A low barrier offer is something that has a very minimal cost. Again, it might be as low as I'm going to give up my phone number, my name, my email, or it might be I'm going to pay a small fee, but a low barrier offer. And then you want a high barrier offer, which is what you really want to sell at the price you're going to make money and make your living off of. Now, you might have gradations in between those levels, but those three are important because people are going to enter your sales cycle at different levels of trust. And you want a way to build up the trust. And generally speaking, you build up the trust by keeping your promises and by delivering more value than they've asked for. So if they come in and they've given you nothing and you're no barrier offer and you've given them value back, trust goes up. As trust goes up, they will then be open to and accept offers at a greater cost to themselves. Okay, so with that principle in mind, you design a sales cycle where you determine step by step what you want clients to do, and then step by step how you will get them to do this. Now, this is the sales cycle generally, but it also can be, you can say, this is the plan for my website. This is the plan for my info product. This is the plan for my speech. In any case, on your, let's take the website as an example because it's very concrete, it's very easy to follow. Every page on your website has a mission. And the mission is always to get the reader to do something. And you want an ideal, most effective website would be a clear website where one page has one purpose, one mission, one action you want somebody to take. And then there's one way you're going to get them to do that. So I also want to throw this open to some people illustrating this for me. What would be something you would want your homepage to do? And how would you get somebody or somebody who comes to your homepage? What would be something you want somebody to come to your homepage to do? And then what would you do to get them to do that one thing? This is a question for anybody who wants to answer it.
If you would like to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and speak or type into the chat room as well.
Either way is fine with me. I just want to engage you a little bit in this because this requires some critical thinking, and I want to get some feedback that is happening.
It's Catherine. For example, I'm thinking that the homepage, you want them to be curious enough to click on some other subsequent page, for example.
Okay, so you want them to go deeper into your website, right? Somebody else say something? Okay.
Yeah, I had a footer on my homepage that allows people to subscribe to a newsletter. That would allow them to learn more about me.
Okay, so let's do that one first and I'll come back to the other one. So ideally, if that's the outcome you want, the page would be designed to get that outcome as its primary purpose, to get people to subscribe. So let's just go with that. What do you do on your homepage, or what could you do on your homepage to get people to subscribe to your, what is it, a newsletter or an email letter?
Yes.
Okay, so what do you do to get people to subscribe? What does the page do, to put a finer point on it? What is your strategy by whatever you put on the page to get people to subscribe to your email letter?
My strategy is just to give them more information about me and create curiosity.
Okay, so
it's not as targeted as you're recommending.
Okay, so let's say hypothetically you listen to this session and you say, I'm going to go back and change my website so that the page has a clear mission of getting people to subscribe and it gets better at it than it used to be. What do you do to your homepage to do that?
This is Joe. I think you'd want to put a link on there, wouldn't you? Or some kind of a click so they could, it would be something that says, click to my newsletter here or something like that. And it would have to be on that home page, I guess.
Yeah,
call to action of some sort. Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely have to have a way for them to do that. And how are you going to get them to do that?
This is Ginny. I think, you might put an excerpt from an article or, something that would give them a flavor of the kinds of things you're writing about and get them curious about reading more.
Yes.
Yeah, what about providing some sort of value to them?
Yeah.
Some valuable input or some valuable article.
Yeah. Provide valuable input, give them an action to take. What is your newsletter called? I don't know who it was that started this, but what's the name of your newsletter?
That was me. I don't have it yet.
You don't have it?
I'm just creating a website, right?
Okay. So Is the name important or not?
It may be. It would probably have something to do with the name of the firm, which is Life Calls, and that too has the double entendre to which you were referring before. Call from the sense of life calling to us, as well as what is one's calling in life.
Okay. So are you helping people achieve their calling or find out what their calling is, or both?
Both.
Okay. So you want people to understand that that's what you're about, and that the people that are coming to your website are people that want to hear about that or learn about that. And to get them to take the next step, you need to make it clear that they're going to get that result when they read the newsletter. They're going to get a clue or take another step toward fulfilling their calling.
Right.
Is that making sense to you? That you're essentially laying out breadcrumbs that people are following. And we're planning this journey out a step at a time. And they've come to your webpage, and now you want them to take the step of subscribing. Well, everything on that page is engineered toward that direction. And by everything, I mean the color, the fonts, the images, the offer, the titles of things. Everything is about your strategic moving them to the next step. Does that make sense to you?
So if there's pictures or a video or something like that, then it needs to be something which would be linking toward, driving toward that purpose of making their life count or something, whatever you'd want to say.
Yes, and this is the, if you take away one thing from this, take this away. Everything has a purpose, and strip away everything else that doesn't support that purpose. Right? If you try to do two things on a page, you'll just have most people do nothing instead of one or the other of them. Okay. And then let's take this analogy a step further. They have subscribed to the newsletter, and they've confirmed, I'm going to skip some of the administration, and they've gotten the first edition or the next edition of the email newsletter. What do you want them to do then?
In my case, it would be to let's talk about an initial call.
Okay, so when they receive a newsletter, the next objective is to set up a call with you.
Yes.
Okay, how do you get them to do that?
By having something continually in the newsletter that allows them to either respond in an email or to be in contact otherwise.
Okay, so that's necessary. Is that going to get a lot of people to do it? Because you obviously have to have a way for them to do it. But what more specifically will you do to get them to do it?
Tell them, I guess, what might be possible there. That's
yes.
How it's linking back to the other piece about how this is tied up with your calling and making your life count.
Yeah. So you've said a lot of things that are all very good. You want to link back to why they came to you in the first place and validate they came to the right place. This is about your calling. And then the next step is to have a conversation about it. And here's a story about somebody like you who had a conversation about it and what happened. And then here's how you set up your conversation. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to push this another step. I've received your news. I signed up for your newsletter, received your newsletter, read your newsletter, and I set up a call with you. What's the purpose of the call?
The call is to see if we're a good fit, and if we're a good fit, let's enter into a 3 to 4 month package with 6 sessions.
Okay. I like everything you said, and I want to add something to it, though, which is I have to demonstrate that I can deliver on my promises. So I want to promise you something in the call that isn't just see if we're going to be a fit, but help me understand something more about my calling. Help me take another step toward achieving my calling on the call.
Right.
fulfilling the promise you made to make the call. And then if you and I determine it's worth taking the next step, we want to then take the next step.
Great.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, great.
I want you guys to understand that there's nuts and bolts to this, but there's no rocket science to this, right? You have to do your work, but no step in here is hard.
Would the thing, Jeff, be then that, okay, on the call, we're going to help you put together a 5-step plan toward one of the things which will get you closer to your vision or to your purpose or whatever we talked about before? Is it something like that? Having we're going to go through 5 steps. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the specifics are good, and it wouldn't necessarily be 5 steps for everybody for every coaching program, but saying we're going to do a 5-step process, assuming it's a 5-step process to produce a result that I want to have, is good, because now you're sounding more professional and more put together by saying I have a process to do this. So it can't be a 5-step process to nowhere. It has to be a 5-step process to something. But within that context, yes, that's a very good approach, very strong approach. Okay. So I'm now going to move on, unless there's more questions or discussion about this part of it.
It's Catherine. I do have just a quick question. You know, I have this process. Is that something that we're giving for free at that point? We're just demonstrating it's a low or no barrier offer that demonstrates the value that we have to give.
Yeah, I mean, depending on where you are in the process, you do want to demonstrate your expertise and your power at a low cost or a no cost to your potential clients. So if that's the stage you're at in the process, yes, you want to give them something of value that demonstrates you producing the value you normally produce. But the pattern repeats over and over again. So if they're already 2 or 3 stages down, you could be taking them through a deeper, longer, bigger process that they're paying more to go through.
That makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to get into the sales conversation itself. Bear in mind, you've done all this. You've built up all this trust. You've built up all this credibility. You've looked professional. You've shown up. You've kept a bunch of promises. You've delivered a bunch of value. And they're trusting you enough to share their inner thoughts and their concerns and their desires. And you've also identified that you're a good match, and you know why from the deep work you did earlier. But then the super simple sales conversation is there 4 questions in a row. What are you trying to achieve? What are you working on? Any version of that question. How will you know you've gotten there, or how will it feel when you do? Okay, so I especially like how will you feel when you get there, because then whoever talked about the question of the desires, the compelling desires before, you do want to tie into their emotional state of winning or of achieving their goal. And then they've articulated their needs. They've had that level of trust with you. They've articulated the emotional feeling that they're going to have. Then the very next question you're going to ask them, and again, the key to this is more when you're doing it than how you're doing it. But the when is, of course, when you've earned sufficient trust for this process. And usually they'll signal you they're ready for a sales conversation. So after they've identified what it'll feel like when they achieve their big win, would you like help with that? Yes. Would you like my help with that? And the reason I say that is because you happen to be my ideal client. And here's why. Because you're like this, and this. And you describe them in the same terms you described your ideal client. And they're like, I'm very happy you recognize that, and I trust you, and I'm going to give you my money, and you're going to help me. Super simple selling.
It seems like number 4 would then come before 3. Before you're asking them whether they'd like to hire you, that you would first share with them why you're a perfect fit.
The reason that I phrase it this way and put it in this order is if they say no, they don't want help with it, that's not signaling it's about you. That's signaling it's a timing issue, and I want to get that out of the way first. So that's the reason I put it in that order. Do you want help with that? If they say no, that's usually they either are totally rejecting you, or more likely you've uncovered a timing issue and you want to deal with a timing issue before you get into this ideal client stuff. But you can play with it and try it in different orders and see how effective it is for you. This method has worked pretty well. Okay. Where is this? Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. So I have, in about 40 minutes, given you a very high-level overview of this. I skipped over pricing. Basically you want to price. There's a bunch of pricing strategies you could choose from, and the premium, freemium, etc. If we get into Q&A, we can get into that if you like. But I wanted to cover the very high, most fundamental points of this system, which, to review them, is you have to have a solid foundation, which means looking professional, showing up, building trust, being able to talk about what you do and who you serve and what you do for them very clearly, very comfortably, and very, I'd ask you to rehearse it, not to sound rehearsed, but so that you're not personally uncomfortable with using these words that you haven't been using before. And then designing your sales cycle and continually testing and improving it. And ultimately then having conversations like this, which, if done with the right level of trust, it has an amazingly high success rate. I'm ready for questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Wonderful. Thank you for providing us with this really clear overview and making these worksheets available on Basecamp. And I did put the Basecamp link directly to this particular handout in the chat room. So if you want to look in the chat room, you can click on that if you're wanting to locate that. So if anyone has questions, now's a chance for us to do a little bit of back and forth dialogue. There was one more comment.
This is also up on the Basecamp. This is a one-page overview of the entire Book Yourself Solid system. So it's not going to replace the book or a more in-depth course, but it will give you a refresher of all the pieces of the system that you can refer to and just spruce up on.
Wonderful.
Also in Basecamp.
Thank you, Jeff. That's a great one-pager. And by the way, there's a book that goes with this that Michael Port has written. So you can also buy the book, Book Yourself Solid, which is a really excellent book as well.
Yeah, and also if you like cartoons, there's also Book Yourself Solid Illustrated, which is where all these illustrations came from. So it's the same concept, but presented in a more less wordy and more artful way.
Thank you. So there was one other comment from Amy. Amy, do you want to share your thoughts, since I don't believe you had a chance to come online earlier?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things. One is I really liked your questioning just to drive towards the what your website. So one thing I said is, up front, you really want them to learn what your why is, so that they know if your why matches their why or their need. And then the other thing I just said was, it sounds a lot like Lean Startup for coaching, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It was great talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. What really surprises people when they get into this is it's a bunch of steps, but they're all simple steps. And they're all very approachable, doable steps.
Exactly. It reminds me of a little coaching scenario I go through with my clients about just how to find what they're passionate and skillful at. I have a little simple diagram, and it gets them focused, and it creates 100 different conversations after that.
Yes. And if I were one of your prospective clients, I'd want to see that diagram on your website or an example of it, along with a story or a video.
Great idea. Thank you.
Anyone else have a question or comment, or maybe a specific thing you would like some help on regarding your marketing or selling?
While you're thinking about that, I'll go on with that diagram. When you have a diagram or something like that, that's signaling to people at many levels that you're organized, that you have organized information in a way that people will digest it, right? One of the reasons that people go to coaches or any kind of expert is because they've already thought it out, because they've been down this path, they've arranged their thoughts in an organized fashion. And the more you show up that way, the more people innately trust you and believe you're an expert.
Okay. We have a question. I'd like to hear more about packaging and pricing strategies.
Okay. Do you have a specific question about that, or do you want to just hear a general discussion of packaging and pricing?
Just when you referred earlier to when you go into the money, how to organize it.
Yeah. Okay. So there are a number of ways to do this. Some people say you can pay me monthly or pay me annually or quarterly and get a big discount. Some people can say, I have 5 things that you can buy, and if you buy them all individually, they're $300 a piece, but collectively they're only $500 for the whole set. So you have that kind of bundling where the bundling is a very good deal. One other pricing strategy that I kind of like a lot is the bonus strategy, where you have price X for one thing and price X plus 5% for a whole lot of extras. That tends to move people from should I do this or not to which one should I do, and it's obvious which one should I do, which is the one with all the bonuses. So the strategy of lots of bonuses is a pricing strategy. Bundling is a pricing strategy. Subscription is a pricing strategy. Adding services from other areas together is another strategy you have. Like you could have a speaking coach and a writing coach making a package together to help somebody develop themselves, for example.
Jeff,
go ahead.
So Jeff, I had one other question. I know due to time, you didn't include the self-promotion strategies, which
Yes.
are also a key element of the Book Yourself Solid system. So since we have a few minutes, I thought maybe you could speak a little bit about the promotion strategies.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to, there in the original book, there were 7. They've reduced them to 6 strategies, but on the whole, networking, direct outreach, referrals, keep in touch, speaking, writing, and web. So, and networking isn't, our Book Yourself Solid networking isn't the kind of networking you think of. You're going and getting a lot of business cards kind of thing. It is basically about sharing what you know and creating the feelings you want to create in other people when you meet them. And you basically want to build up a network of about 90 people that you're in regular contact with, that you're showing up to help them, and they know who you are and you know what you're doing. And that's what we mean by networking in Book Yourself Solid. I'm going to move on quickly to direct outreach, because this is a super powerful technique that a lot of people simply don't do, and is pretty easy. So the steps are, you come up with 20 people who you do not know but would like to know, or who could help you. And I'm talking about specific people with names, addresses, phone numbers, whatever you got on them. And then your mission is, every day you get up and spend a little bit of time researching one person, that whoever's at the top of your list, and then figure out a way to show up for them helpfully. Okay, and there's usually 3 ways to do that. It's either you can give them some praise or some emotional support for something they're going through. You can introduce them to somebody that will help them, or you can give them a bit of knowledge that they've been looking for or would move them ahead. But in any case, you're going to show up for them. You're going to do them certainly an unsolicited favor of some kind, either emotional support, making a connection, or giving them information that's timely and useful for them. And that's it. You're not going to ask for anything. And you do that every day, essentially. But once you've done for one person, you put them at the bottom of the list. And since you have 20 on this list, it means about once a month, you're going to reach out to these people and do something for them. Now, if you've done it 3 or 4 times and they've got nothing back, they're probably never going to respond. And in that case, you're going to remove them from the list and put somebody else in. But usually what will happen is after 2 or 3 of these things, they'll start responding to you in some way. And essentially, you're now in the same process you would be for a sales process. You're building a relationship with them. You're showing up, building the level of trust you have. And eventually, they graduate from being a hopeful to you to being in your network you're in contact with all the time. And they're starting to support you directly. Referrals, there's a whole science of referrals, and I actually have a whole different presentation on that. But referrals have to do with, number one, setting up. Referrals are a very, very strong source of business. And the reason is you enter your sales cycle with a high degree of trust because you were referred by a trusted party. So the first thing you need to understand is people who are doing referrals, why are they doing it? Who are they doing it for? This is a question for anybody. If I'm giving a referral, why am I doing it, and who am I attempting to benefit when I do it?
Because you believe that we as a coach have a beneficial thing to offer to whoever they're referring you to.
So therefore, who am I doing it for?
As the referrer?
Yes.
You're doing it for the person that you're referring to.
Correct. So when I'm referring my friend to you as a coach, I'm doing it to benefit my friend. Now, it might incidentally benefit you, but that's not why I do it. So the fundamental rule of referrals is to remember that. To remember that people are doing that to help their friends, not to help you. And you want to make it clear that you know that you are going to help their friend, and they have to be completely more than comfortable, but very knowledgeable that you're going to help their friend. And then they're going to refer you because that's why. And then as a side effect, the second person they're doing it for is not you either. It's themselves, because they want their friend to do well, and they also want to get the reflected glory of, I gave my friend good advice by suggesting to come to you. Does that make sense?
That does make sense.
So this is a general, almost a law, and it's a thing that you can probably help yourselves and your coaching clients understand, is always try to be on the other side of the transaction from the one you're trying to create. So when you're trying to sell something, you need to think like a buyer. When you're trying to get a referral, you need to think like a referrer. And that's a general rule. People fail to do that all the time to their great detriment. When you're trying to buy, think like a seller. When you're trying to sell, think like a buyer, etc. When you're trying to hire somebody, think like somebody looking for a job. When you're looking for a job, try to think like somebody who's hiring. Keep in touch has to do with having your newsletter, it's another strategy, but basically you're going to run into some people who are your ideal clients, but there's a timing issue. And the big problem with that is, will you be in their conscious awareness when the timing shifts? And maybe you will if you send them a newsletter every 2 weeks or every week, or if you're watching a podcast of yours. You need to both be the right coach for them or the right match for them and show up at the right time. And if you come too early and they're not ready, and then you don't follow up, they probably won't think of you when the timing is right. So that's what Keep in Touch is about. And then the other strategies, and they're kind of optional, or you'd want to do maybe one of these that you resonate with, which are speaking, writing, and the internet in general, the social media world. Any one of them can be all-consuming. So that's why if you're going to use those strategies, pick your favorite, the one you are most energetic about, and concentrate on that one. speaking gives you a lot of credibility. Writing, especially writing a book, gives you a lot of credibility. And all the social media, of course, you can engage interactively and build an audience. If you're a solo practitioner or in a small business, you probably don't have the energy to invest in multiple channels like that. So pick your favorite and make the most of it.
So Jeff, we have a question from Carolyn. Carolyn, do you want to ask it, or I could read it?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to ask if you had any tips for those of us not in metro areas. It's just amazing to me, having moved around, how much money there is in metro areas for anything like this. Just the economy is so much bigger. And getting to my next point is the virtual coaching, e-marketing, and that kind of thing. I mean, what do you think about that?
Okay, so let's say, they're definitely directly related, because if you're doing virtual coaching, it doesn't matter whether you're in a metro area or not. You can reach anybody in the world. So your questions almost cancel each other out. But if I take them separately, are you saying, what are the special challenges? How do we overcome them if we're in an area with less population and less people who therefore need our services? Is that what your person?
I see you're definitely a mathematician at heart with the canceling out. No, but what I'm saying, I guess what I'm kind of asking is, a lot of it, I feel like it has to be generated in a face-to-face format. And I'm wondering, how could you generate a client base in a virtual format just from the get-go, and anything different that you would apply?
Well, all the principles are the same. You have to have credibility. You have to build up trust. You have to make offers that are proportionate to the level of trust you've earned. It is certainly very common in the world generally, and now even more so, to interact with people via video instead of in person. So I don't think anybody's going to find it strange or less than at this stage of our collective development that you would coach people remotely and not spend the time and at present moment the risk of transit, right? You can help more people if you book back-to-back meetings virtually. Then you have to move around to meet them one by one. So I don't think people are put off by that at this point, and people have the capability of connecting by video. That's no longer a big mystery or a big. They can do it right on their phone right now.
Hey Jeff.
Yeah.
Just to build on what you're saying here, almost all the marketing that Fielding does is virtual, and social media, which we use a lot, is an important piece of that, and obviously webinars like we're doing right now. This is all virtual. Creating virtual communities like the base camp. So these are just some powerful tools that we use and I use every day. I do some face-to-face networking, but very little. I might go to 2 or 3 conferences a year to meet people, but that's mostly about connecting with people I already know and building those relationships, as opposed to building brand new people. A lot of that can come from referrals. So especially for coaches that have been around more than 5 years, you begin to see more and more your business by referral, I think. So that strategy becomes more important, which is really about letting people know who you serve and why that's important, and you're open for business and ready to take new clients. So anyway, those are just a couple of my thoughts, having used this system now for about 10 years and finding it very helpful.
Yeah, there's nothing about this system that requires anything face-to-face. Now, you could do it if that's your style, but it all works remote or face-to-face.
Yeah, writing, especially if you're writing a book or blogs, you don't even have to talk to people. It can be all written.
That's true.
So we're about out of time today, and I really want to thank all of you for your engagement and questions. I also just have a couple of quick announcements, but I want to thank Jeff for coming today. You can see his phone number and email on the screen if you have any further questions for Jeff. I know he has graciously allowed you to reach out to him and ask those questions and connect with him. It's been great having you, and I really thank you in this day and age where virtual is even more important than ever for us to connect in this way. So thanks, Jeff, and we really look forward to continuing to hear from you and all the great things you're doing. I do have just a couple announcements. If you are not yet a member of the Coaching Community of Practice and would like to have the handouts that Jeff showed today, please go to ccop.fielding.edu. Again, ccop.fielding.edu. You will also, if you join, get regular updates from us on our upcoming webinars. If some of you are interested in pricing, our next webinar will be about pricing. On April 1st, we're going to have Brian Underhill, who is the CEO and founder of CoachSource, which is the largest network of executive coaching. He will be here talking about pricing and executive coaching trends, what you need to know. So put that on your calendar for April 1st. We also will have on March 28th, which is not this weekend, but the following weekend, a webinar on measuring mindset and change readiness in coaching. So if any of you are looking at knowing whether your clients are ready and looking at their mindset issues, we have a special guest, Dr. Jody Odell, will be speaking that day. We really invite you to join in. That's on a Saturday, so it makes it a little bit easier. Here is information about that webinar. After Jody, we have another series of other powerful webinars coming up on April 18th, LinkedIn 2020, what you need to know for your brand, business, and network. So that will be a nice build for Jeff's presentation he did today. And we're going to have Howard Fox present for that. He is a Fielding alum of the EBC program and the master's program as well. He'll be talking about how to use LinkedIn, which might help you a lot for those who like to do more virtual marketing and how LinkedIn can really support you in doing that. So these are just some of the upcoming events. We invite you to participate in those. We also post all of our webinars after they are recorded, and you can get those from coach.fielding.edu by clicking on either Thought Leaders Series webinars, which are primarily about research and coaching, or professional series webinars like Jeff's today, where you can learn about how people are applying coaching in practice. So that Jeff's webinar will be posted on this page shortly if you would like to revisit any of the principles that he talked about today. So again, thank you all for coming, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you on one of our upcoming webinars. Thanks a lot.
Bye, everyone. I'm signing off. Lovely speaking with you, and reach out if you need any further help.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks so much, Jeff. Thanks so much.
Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
Thanks, everybody.